Hi, I'm David Berkman, and today's topic for our masterclass is a really interesting topic. I'll actually tell you a little bit of how I came to it. It's another approach to thinking about harmony and the chords of standard tunes and jazz originals and all that kind of stuff. That's very different from the way harmony is usually taught in jazz schools. So in jazz schools, the most common approach is to learn the chords, and you learn them as these things that have chord tones and have tensions. Basically, I always think of this as the 1, 3, sorry, I want to do these separately, the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 approach. You have your chord tones, which are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Then, I'm sorry, 1, 3, 5, 7 are the chord tones, and then you have your tensions. And together, that's our way of understanding what each chord is in a piece of music. So if you see a C minor 7, we have this way that we've learned from jazz schools that you understand that as being comprised of chord tones, 1, 3, 5, 7, C, E flat, G, B flat. And then there are tension notes, which are colorful pitches, that are colorful sounds, so that you can add a ninth to a C minor 7. And you get a kind of, that has a certain quality to it. And the 11th has a certain quality. But those are color notes that we add to the basic sort of defining tones of the chord. So that's the approach that I learned when I first went to Berkeley in Boston, and that's the approach that I was kind of trying to get. And it's kind of related to a chord scale approach, where every chord has a chord scale, and the chord scales are a little different from looking at the chord vertically. When we look at the chord vertically, we're looking at chords notes that harmonize well with those basic chord tones. Usually there's more chord scale options than just those commonly played tensions, but the available tensions give us the kind of the standard harmony for most situations. And that's kind of the way North Texas and all the various other jazz schools around the United States, that's the sort of the jazz academic approach, is to kind of understand these chords as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 note possibilities that are available on any chord that you see on a piece of, in a lead sheet. So that is a great model and it's useful, but there's also another way of thinking about chords that's very different. And really, this is a way of thinking about chords that Barry Harris, the great jazz pianist from Detroit, has been very influential in teaching. And he's taught this around the world. I teach a lot in Holland, and Barry Harris was always traveling to The Hague. There was a kind of a bebop pianist teacher named Franz Elza who used to bring him all the time. Anyway, Barry has been very influential teaching around the world. He teaches every Tuesday in New York City still to this day. He's a great, icon of jazz and a beautiful pianist. And anyway, so Barry Harris was really influential in bringing awareness to this other approach. He doesn't think of chords so much as 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. He thinks of chords as being comprised of a sixth chord and a diminished chord that is kind of a partner chord. So instead of trying to make all the sounds that are available through this stacked third approach, we have this other approach, and you can use a major and minor sixth chord, major or minor sixth chord, paired with a half step away diminished chord. Now, I'm going to try and make this as simple and easy to understand as possible, but for somebody who goes for the first time to a Barry Harris class, there's a lot of things that you have to kind of understand about this system that are a little different than the other approach, which is, so if you ask Barry Harris, what what kind of ninth would you use on this chord, or how do you use the sharp 11 or whatever, he'll say there's no such thing as a ninth, there's no such thing as a sharp 11. Those are diminished notes, right? So it's a different way of understanding the harmony, but there are certain things that you get from this approach that you can't get from the other approach. And one of the things I always sort of like to think about with this is that this diminished partner, approach to diminished sixth. It's always hard to come up with a good, snappy handle for this name for it. It's the diminished/sixth approach. Let's just call it that. Gives you these kind of colorful notes on the chord, but they have a direction. There's sort of counterpoint built into this system. So that's really interesting. And then the other thing about it is, this explains a whole lot of techniques that jazz pianists have used for years, going back to Bud Powell and Teddy Wilson, Art Tatum, Hank Jones. It's all through his playing, and it really continues up to the present day. A pianist who uses a lot of suspensions is Keith Jarrett, and he also uses this approach in different ways. So the thing that I think is so interesting about it, not to give away the big reveal at the end of the whole masterclass, is that in the end of the day, this approach can both give you traditional jazz sounds, but also can be used to come up with really modern contemporary sounds. And I think it's more about how you apply this technique than just the technique. It doesn't have to be in any one style, and that's the thing that has made me so interested in this, in the last few years.